Today is Tuesday, the 11th of August, 2026. A pleasant good morning to you and a warm welcome to your breakfast show. Good morning, Sierra Leone. The program that always starts your day with analysis and divergence of views on news and current happenings in the country. We are your presenters. I am Esther Sapo.
And I am Emmanuel Samuel. Well, we start the program with the quote of the day. The quote of the day is from former American President Abraham Lincoln, and it says, "You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today." It says, "You cannot escape the responsibilities of tomorrow by evading it today." So it means what needs to be done today should be done today, because when you leave it tomorrow, that same thing will haunt you.
Exactly. So coming up in this edition of the program, as the main opposition All People's Congress members of Parliament walks out during the constitutional amendment bill debate, Speaker refers the matter to Supreme Court for interpretation.
And a chief director in the Ministry of Information and Civic Education educates us on the entire bill. Well,
on that note, we invite you to participate in the program by sending your text message to the number displayed on your screen, or send your comments on our Facebook page, slvc.sl. The program is Good Morning Sierra Leone, live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Company. Stay with us.
Live on the SRBC, we start the conversation proper. Members of Parliament from Sierra Leone's main opposition, All People's Congress Party (APC), walked out of Parliament on August 10, 2026, protesting a vote on the constitutional amendment bill that they argued failed to meet the required two-thirds majority threshold. Opposition leader Honorable Abdulkadir led the APC lawmakers out of the chamber after rejecting a proposal to establish the Search and Nomination Committee for appointing electoral commissioners. The APC argued under Section 108B of the 1991 Constitution that constitutional amendments require a two-thirds majority of all members to pass. Well, let's bring you an excerpt of what happened in Parliament yesterday.
Position has always been that we are living a lasting meaning as a nation. This Parliament is making the history, and we on this side totally convinced, we are extremely persuaded that you cannot change peace to wars and off to act in this constitution by mere simple majority. With every respect to your ruling, sir, as stated in SO 42, I want you and the general public, the entire world, to note that we on the side will not be a party advocating or going against the standard amendment. We have supported various reforms brought to this house. If we are not willing to support reforms, we will never have voted today. But what we did was an expression of our total willingness for government. But our willingness does not mean we should do what we consider as unlawful. So, Mr. Speaker, with all due respect, sir, pending on your ruling, we want the entire world to note that 96 honorable members of Parliament are seeking to amend a document that is to be amended by 100 members of Parliament. So we on this side cannot be a party to that, Mr. Speaker. So, honorably, sir, with all due respect, sir, I respect your office so much. I respect your office so much. And in fact, I am constrained because of the respect I have for your office. We on this side will honorably, with all due respect to your seat and with all due respect to this parliament, and the people of Sierra Leone who are watching us, people all over the world, we on this side will not be part of an amendment that lacks the threshold of 2/3 majority. So on that note, we are leaving the ball in your court. 96 members. If you want to touch the constitution, we have the army for posterity.
No problem.
Posterity will hold you responsible. So on that note, I ask my colleagues on the side that we take a peaceful leave and leave 96 members.
Well, that was what transpired in Parliament yesterday when the minority leader of APC in Parliament led this party out of Parliament. Well, Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Senator Solomon Thomas, and the ruling SLPP lawmakers counter that the simple majority rule under Section 91 applied because the vote concerned a specific clause rather than the entire bill. The Speaker further said he will defer the matter to the Supreme Court for interpretation. Honorable Guevara argued that the vote was on a specific clause of the bill rather than the bill in its entirety. Well, let's take a news story filed in by parliamentary correspondent Dennis Fraser.
We are agreed with the technical committee made up of the APC and government of Sierra Leone that the amended bill on the floor of this house.
The final stage of the amendment process on the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2025 started with a friendly participation by members of parliament on both sides of the aisle. Although opposition MPs delayed taking their seats for the start of the process, both sides argued to strongly maintain positions already taken on the bill. Leading up to the conclusion on the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2025, which had had careful and thoughtful considerations through and through. Will the collaboration continue on the bill, or will the consensus that has existed on both sides of the political divide only end
on underpinning the non-contentious clauses. From what it seemed, members of parliament seems to be very much open on striking the balance.
It became more intense after one of the contentious clauses was put forward for a vote by collection of voices. Even though the opposition leader, Honorable Abdul Kabo, claimed a division, two APC MPs backed government position on the existing provision on selecting an electoral commissioner and not through a search and nomination committee to oversee the appointment. The Speaker, Honorable Segepo Solomon Thomas, later ruled that all other clauses in the bill will be voted on by simple majority of votes. But this propelled the leader of the opposition and his colleague MPs to stage a walkout after contesting a 2/3 majority constitutional provision. All MPs on the opposition bench, except for Honorable Mohamed Bangura and Honorable Alfred Thompson, exited the well. This did not prevent the bill from sailing through the committee stage successfully. The bill later received tremendous speed, and this was so because the Speaker said there was no contention to the modifications being made. In the end, the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2025 was enacted by Parliament.
Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay.
The Speaker, Honorable Segepo Solomon Thomas, noted that the issue concerns not merely the mechanics of voting, but the constitutional architecture governing the exercise of Parliament's constitutional authority. He quoted a dozen of provisions considered necessary to state the principles that ought to guide the process at the Supreme Court.
The Constitution of Sierra Leone 1991 does not make provision for the exception to this general rule. I therefore invite members of this House and by extension the citizens of Sierra Leone to carefully read sections such as 29.3, 119 subsection 9, 137 subsection 7, 137 subsection 10, and 173. Apart from these sections and others, there is definitely no section of general application that deals with a 2/3 majority.
Enacted, the Constitutional Amendment Bill was referred to the Supreme Court for an opinion to be returned to the House within a 3-month period. As things stand, citizens outside the four walls of Parliament are unsure as to what will be the outcome. SLBC, Dennis Fraser reporting.
Well, that story was filed by our parliamentary correspondent, Dennis Fraser. Well, from there we come to our studio guest, who is the Chief Director at the Ministry of Information and Civic Education, Almami Lahai Kamara, who is here to educate the public more the bill. Viewers, please note that all parties were invited to this program. They gave their word but didn't show up. That we meant from the ruling, the governing bench, SLPP, and that of the opposition bench. But at the 11th hour, they didn't show up. So, but we have the Chief Director in the Ministry of Civic Education, who's here to talk, to educate the public on the bill. Good morning, Mr. Kamel.
Thank you for having me.
So, as a communicator and someone who, who is, let me say, maybe you are conversant with the bill itself, what is your general overview before talking about some sections, especially the contentious ones?
Well, we were all in Parliament yesterday to witness the proceedings. Some people were there to support their MPs. We were also there to monitor the proceedings, because that involves or that concerns the country, Sierra Leone, because it deals with how we will vote in the coming elections. So anything that deals with elections is something that cuts across or that should have a national face. So what happened yesterday was a national event that every single Sierra Leonean should take interest in, more especially those of us who have been appointed to represent the public, who have been appointed to serve the state, should take interest and also observe the parliamentary proceedings, just like the journalists who were also there to inform the country about what was happening in parliament. I think what we saw yesterday was a display of democracy, a display of civility, a display of maturity for both benches to be seated in the House and take part in the debate. I mean, that was what we were expecting, that it was going to be civilized, that it was going to be a friendly exchange. Even at the point when they staged the walkout, it was still democratic, because they were not compelled to do so. It was intentional. They stated their position and said, we will walk out. So once you have that platform to make known your position, and you take your position without any force of fighting, that is an absolute display of democracy. It's an absolute display of maturity. It's an absolutely display of statesmanship, which both are displayed, and that was commendable on their part. You know, to have strengthened the democracy we should cherish in this country.
So you are trying to say that as opposed to previous years, previous sittings that we've had serious rancors in Parliament, this particular Parliament that is currently seated, they've gone beyond that. Certainly, the police were there, also doing their own job. Journalists were there, doing their own job. Government functionaries were there, doing their own job. Representatives of political parties were there, doing their own job. The MPs were there, doing their own job. So all of us who witnessed the session, we were doing our jobs. I mean, those who went to support their MPs were also doing their own job. I mean, that was what was expected of them, to go cheer, to go accompany their MPs, to go debate and discuss their interest around elections. So that was friendly. So
the bill was passed with the main opposition not participating in the process. What does this mean for the democracy of our country? They did not vote for the bill.
That in itself is democratic. If you withhold your vote, it's democratic. It's for a reason, or for some reasons, that led you to withholding your vote over constitutionality about whether this bill reached the 2/3 majority for passing or not. The argument is around section 108 versus section 91 or so, holding that for the opposition that they should take a 2/3 majority vote. For the speaker, since individual provisions have been voted for, the bill in its entirety was not voted for, was not on their decks for voting. So therefore, it does not meet that threshold, the 2/3 majority threshold for voting. So these two constitutional arguments between the speaker and the opposition was why the speaker said we would refer to the Supreme Court to take a decision on this, because it's a constitutional matter, and that will take 3 months for the Supreme Court to look into that argument and also take a vote on it.
So, Mr. Kama, when you look at what led to the walkout, this 23-page document, the first provision in it talks about how we get the constitution of the Electoral Commission, the commissioners. So, and you are here to educate the
Search and Nomination Committee.
Yes, it all talks about the electoral commissioners, how they come into being. So, and you are here to educate the public on this particular bill itself. So, let's start with the thing that led to the walkout, the Search and the Nomination Committee. What could you say about this?
So, what about it?
So, now the bill is proposing that the president, appoints a Search and Nomination Committee, and this committee people will be coming from institutions. So, in this particular way, how would you want to, make that common man out there understand this dynamics within this bill? That some might be saying, oh, it's wrong. Another section of society say, no, it's not wrong.
That came from the tripartite document, which proposed the institution of a search and nomination committee that would be constituted with members from representing different institutions. For example, SLAG or the media, the lawyers, civil society, technocrats, and the like will constitute that search and nomination committee. I mean, the idea, the context is to cascade authority to civil entities to take a decision when it comes around electoral affairs, like electing the electoral commissioner, the chairman for electoral commission, and commissioners. So that was how this came about. That let's entrust civil agencies to take part in this process. So that was how this idea came about the search and nomination committee. So if you look at the tripartite document, it's an excellent piece of document that attempts to, build the peace and also refurbish the governance sector of our country. That's exactly what it seeks to do. It's proposed a number of reforms that have happened as we speak. For example, the management and functional review that has happened at SLBC is part of the reform process. The MFR that has happened at IMC, PPRC, ECSL, all of this were proposed by the tripartite document. And, for SLBC, we now see what is happening, even in terms of physical or infrastructural refurbishment that has happened or that is happening at SLBC may have emanated from that document. And as I speak, the SLBC Act will be reviewed, policies will be instituted that regulate the administration and operation of the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. And as I speak, even the ministry is embarking on instituting the Public Broadcasting Fund, PBF, for the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation, because the argument is, if SLBC has a sustainable resources coming from independent sources, that will guarantee the independence of the SLBC. So not relying on government subsidies. You understand? So all of these are mechanics that guarantee independence, electoral independence, operational independence, and administrative independence. So these reforms are coming owing to the proposals in that tripartite document. So that is why I said those who put together that document did well and meant well for Sierra Leone, because we want to hold an election that all of us will take ownership of, and all of us will support the process, and that will be peaceful. And so at the end of the day, we are able to look at our leaders and tap them on their back to say, yes, it was us who voted for you through these electoral processes. So
another contention has to do with the proportional representation system. Some said, because you had from the APC, they were strongly against the proportional representation. And we've seen several reports by some non-governmental organizations, CSOs. They did reports saying, asking the people of Sierra Leone what's the form of system they want to vote. Some are saying the hybrid system, some are saying the PR wells, some are saying the first past the post. So as the Chief Director of the Ministry of Information, yesterday the bill that was passed, proportional representation, is the system that was passed. So for members of the public to understand, what's the goodies in the proportional representation for the people of Sierra Leone?
You recall last year, June, Tripartite Secretariat, together with the Attorney General, the Office of the Attorney General, and the Ministry of Information, undertook series of consultations. Technical consultations were held in Freetown with ECSL separately, PPRC separately, the electoral bodies and ONS, consultations with the religious bodies, civil society and the media, and the academic sector to determine what was best or what is best for Sierra Leone in view of first past the post and the proportional representation. This same team went up country to the north, the south, the east, and the west to also held similar consultations. And so that culminated into the national dialogue, which we are aware of, that was held in Freetown at Bintumani on July 5th, where again a number of proposals were made, and discussions around PR versus first past the post came up. The main opposition APC also made a proposal. They made a position, took a position in that respect, favoring first past the post. The chiefs, the religious bodies, and a number of other interest groups also made positions in that event. And so that the reports of all of those consultations prepared by the consultants, I just want to read you some brief stuff of that report, was that the outcome of those consultations were that, one, you find out that the threshold of the PR in 2023 was high, 11.5, 11.9 or so, which prevented a good number of other political parties from being represented in Parliament. So it was the interest of the public and that of the political parties that threshold be brought down to 5.5 or so, to allow for participation, or to increase participation, and to allow for more political parties to be in Parliament. And this report suggested that the public, there's a huge appetite for a hybrid system of PR, a hybrid system of voting system, taking all the advantages from the PR, advantages of the first past the post, put together and form a hybrid version that would fit, or that would match or speak or address the socio-political context of Sierra Leone. And so this hybrid system must have some of these parameters. One, it must create safe seats for 30% representation of women. In fact, it is proposing 40, not even 30. Reserved seats will be reserved only for persons with disability, 5%. We should have persons with disability represented in Parliament, and only them should sit on those seats. Reserved seats, 5%. I'm coming. And then the youth, young people, should also be included. And then it should take the Kenyan quota system style. So all of these are the outcomes of those consultations by the public, that yes, women, there should be 30%, just as we have in government now, 30% representation in Parliament. And there should be safe seats for persons with disability. And then also young persons should also be represented in Parliament. And the electoral list should come from the public, from the constituencies, from the districts, from the regions, and not from the political parties.
But that's not the case for the PR system.
So that's now, we are now saying, this document is now saying, and in fact the AG is now saying, Parliament must define the kind of PR that speaks to the socio-political context of Sierra Leone. We don't want a PR that confers power or authority in the hands of political parties, leaving the public, leaving the communities who will be voting, who should be voting for their MPs. So they are now saying it should be the community who should determine who they want to serve them in Parliament, and not the political parties.
So is there a way for the PR to be adjusted? Because the PR system says the party is the one that sends members.
No, that's not what the PR system says.
That is how the PR works.
There are variations.
They are the ones that send
there are variations of PR depending on the socio-political context the country is practicing. The PR practiced in UK may not be the same practiced in America or elsewhere.
So how does the PR that works in Sierra Leone?
So how it works is what we would define as the people, that reflect our interests, that reflect our dynamics, that reflect our political divide. So we have to define it. So Parliament, we would not have that responsibility.
So the PR system that was used in 2023, How were the members of the members?
So it should now be modified. It should now be modified, taking on board all of those queries that have come up regarding the PR used in 2023. It should now be modified to address those concerns, because these are fundamental concerns about who selects the aspirants, who selects.
Because that has been the goal of
exactly.
Even from the APC, that has been their concern.
Exactly.
Most people, they don't know the people that are representing them in their communities. In fact, from certain communities, they don't even have members of parliament.
Exactly. So that's what the AG is saying, that parliament should now sit and define the PR that works best for Sierra Leone.
So when you just mentioned the recommendations from the tripartite secretariat, which culminated into the formulation of this particular document, there is something you mentioned there. The 30% quota for women, it's inside this bill itself, which all of the MPs they supported. But there is nothing mentioned there about the safe seats for disabled. You understand? There is nothing mentioned there about the safe seats for disabled. Then also, where you are saying the AG proposed, when you look at this particular bill, there is no clearly defined PR system that should be used in this country, as according to what is currently in Parliament, the bill itself. Because from the tripartite, what the Secretariat Public Consultation is, there should be a clearly defined type of PR system that should be used. When you look at the constitutional amendment bill, it is not there. So that's the worry people are outside there. People are
no, but PR is there, right? PR is there,
but not
the kind of PR. So that's the point I am making. So Parliament will have to sit and determine the kind of PR that would befit us as a country, taking on board all of the advantages and disadvantages therein in both political systems, defining first past the post and the PR that was used in 2023. So it's the PR is there, but the kind of PR and what should constitute the PR is not there. So that is what our Parliament will have to work on.
So what about, because there is this recommendation for from what you have said, is that there is this 30% recommendation for women, but the 5% safe seats, it's not mentioned within the documents itself.
Well, maybe, what we have before us, what Parliament has before them, was, you now have the bundle, which is the Constitution itself. And now you have sections of it hived and then placed on a separate document, which is the amendment bill, and then taken to Parliament. These are contentious sections, like the PR, like the committee, the search and nomination committee, the 50+1%. All of these are contentious, so they are rushed through to Parliament because of the elections. I mean, anything around elections, it is in the interest of the AG that they should be dealt with now, so that we don't wait until 6 months before election before we take this clause dealing with elections to Parliament, by which time would have been late, and that could have not. I mean, it could suggest that there is something fishy. But now that there is ample time to discuss and debate all of these clauses dealing with election, the ones which are not contentious, like the safe seat for disabled, it's not contentious. I mean, among the high, everybody would want to vote for it because it's not contentious. And so all of the other aspects of the Constitution, I mean, that which was proposed by the tripartite recommendations, the Peter Tucker Commission, and then Justice Cowan, would now be taken to Parliament, including all of this would now be taken to Parliament as one bundle. Which will now require a referendum that us, Sierra Leoneans, will now take a yes or a no vote to that referendum. Because all of what is in that constitution is not contentious anymore. The contentious ones are the ones dealing with elections. They would have been addressed, just as now actions have been taken on them, they would have been addressed. So when we now get to the referendum, it will now only ask a single question. Do you want this document or you don't want this document? That's a constitution. So you will now take a yes or a no vote. Voting through a referendum. So that is what is on the pipeline, and that's what the AG is doing. We are now getting through all of these contentious ones. These are the sticky ones. These are dealing with elections because they can be partisan. I mean, they carry specific interest. People have specific interest in these electoral laws. So that is why they are before Parliament now for a determination.
Okay, continue with us on the program is Animami Lahai Kamara. He is the Chief Director of the Ministry of Information and Civic Education. He has been educating members of the public regards the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2025. Well, we take a health tip of today, and today we look at how to stop procrastination. Procrastination has the power to make even the simplest task feel impossible. Get back on track with these strategies, including breaking down tasks into smaller ones and finding ways to take a break and reward yourself when you inevitably succeed. Let us watch and learn.
Procrastination isn't just a time management problem. It's an emotion management problem that can make even the simplest tasks feel insurmountable. If you're tired of putting things off until the last minute, you're not alone. Here's what you can do to get back on track. Start by shifting your mindset. Procrastination can affect your self-esteem, paving the way for guilt and shame. Instead of beating yourself up, be kind to yourself and try to find just one small thing you can do to make progress. Breaking down tasks into smaller chunks can make your to-do list feel more manageable. If you're trying to clean up the house, maybe start by loading the washing machine before taking out the trash. Sometimes procrastination is more about organization than anything else. Manage your time and your energy by creating to-do lists, setting a timer for specific tasks, and scheduling demanding tasks during peak performance hours. If you work better in the morning, for example, that's the time to get ahead. As you work through your list of projects, don't forget to schedule breaks. Burnout and exhaustion are the #1 cause for procrastination. So take breaks between tasks, make time for self-care before or after work, and set aside some time for fresh air if you're able to get outside. Your mental health is key to your success. If you are unable to focus, breaks can help bust up some of the brain fog you might be feeling. It also helps to minimize distractions. Block off time on your calendar or use noise-canceling headphones when there's a lot going on. It may take some time to figure out what works best for you, but it's important to remain flexible. Adjust your routine when things don't work out the way you wanted, and be open to new ideas. Sometimes it even helps to reward yourself for your own achievements. If you're dreading a specific task, like paying bills or scheduling your next doctor appointment, allow yourself some free time whenever the task is over. Remember, there's nothing wrong with wanting to do your very best. But if you tie your self-worth to performance, starting a task can feel risky if you're worried about being perfect. Remind yourself that mistakes are a part of learning and they don't reflect your value. If you are not sure where to get help, make an appointment with a primary care provider or therapist who can shed light on the situation. Procrastination and perfectionism don't define you. With the right strategies, you can move forward with confidence and keep your goals on track.
We hope you learned a lot from that video that talks about procrastination. While we continue with the discussion, we still have with us the Chief Director at the Ministry of Information and Civic Education, Almami Lahai Kamara, who is educating the public on this particular constitutional amendment bill. And Chief, this other contentious issue that has to do with this simple majority, I want you to break it down for the public to understand, because it says here a simple majority of the total valid vote cast throughout Sierra Leone and a minimum 20% of the total valid broadcast in at least 2/3 of the district of Sierra Leone. I want you to break this one for the public, the other common man out there to really understand what is the 2/3 majority of the district of Sierra Leone. Because this is what the bill is now saying, that this is where you declare someone as the winner, a simple majority plus 2/3 majority of the entire district.
I think the intention behind this is to obtain a president that has a national character, a national face, so that we don't have a president that may have been voted for by just one part of the country. You should have pooled votes in all the regions.
One may tell you that even if 55%, it is not possible for you to win an election that 55% without getting votes from across the country. So what's the difference between this current one that the bill is saying and the one that's
that is what the tripartite document says. So it's merely complying with what that tripartite report says, so that because that is what has been put together by the parties that developed that document. So it's what's important that the content of that document be followed. Yeah. So I know would have to organize special events to educate the public around these issues, because it's important also that Sierra Leoneans understand what are the issues, what does this mean, when we say a president should have a national face, he should have pooled some votes in the north, in local, that district, all of these districts should have some representation, some votes in all of those districts, because again, when you sit as a president, you sit as head of state for the country, and so that is how you distribute development to districts, to regions, and not to a particular part of the country. So it's important that yes, the public gets to understand what that means. We sit with the authorities, those who are experts in elections, PPIC, ECSL, to also get some expert understanding regarding how that is calculated and what it actually means, so that we take that information to the public and disseminate it, because it requires some calculations, and which you and I may not be familiar with, but which ECSL may be familiar with, because they are the experts in terms of elections. PPRC, ONS in terms of security, in terms of elections, political party management, that falls under PPRC. So when we have issues of knowledge, issues around electoral processes, we refer to them to clarify or to help us understand in detail what this means, especially when we're talking about calculations, 2/3, how is it counted, 20%, how is it counted from each district. We now refer to them to help us understand, and we now take that knowledge to the public to understand what it means.
So during your court, because you are also continuing to serve in the tripartite secretariat, and I know you've been part of several discussions looking at the intent behind this particular having a 2/3 majority of the district with a simple majority vote. During your consultations with people, different people, what your perception of people with regards to this particular section, because this is very contentious in Parliament. This is one of the issues that created a statement between the either side of the aisle.
But you heard what the AG said around that same issue, and the understanding he had with all the political parties regarding that, and what was exhibited in Parliament. You heard what the AG said. I don't want to get into that. Like I said, these are issues we sit with ECSL, so get the understanding, and then we will disseminate the information.
So when you look at it, another thing that's from yesterday, when the speaker made the proclamation that when he made the declaration after his ruling saying that the Supreme Court should handle it, people are somewhat a bit confused, saying that Parliament has the responsibility to make law. Now they are amending the constitution, and now they are doing this, and then why is the Parliament sending this particular document that they are supposed to make? Why is it sending it to the judiciary for the judiciary to give final verdict on it?
It's on constitutional issue around sections within the constitutions and the interpretation of those sections. I think I had the speaker referencing those sections, not even one, not even 91 or so. There are several other sections I had him referencing together with section 91, whilst I think the main opposition reference section 108. And so who gives interpretations to constitutional issues? I think it's the Supreme Court. So he will now refer this to the Supreme Court to make an interpretation regarding these sections to determine what is right and what is not right, depending on the circumstance on the ground.
So
it should not be contentious. It should not confuse us. Rather, it's a process allowing for another state authority, another arm of government, to also look into what has been argued around this particular amendment, so that another neutral, independent body gets to examine the arguments around constitutionality, the sections raised by both the speaker and the head of the main opposition party.
Okay, so there's been a challenge, like misunderstanding by members of the public, whether it be the PR system or this 2/3 majority, and even what transpired in Parliament. A lot of people don't even understand what's going on. So as the Ministry of Information and Civic Education, how would you ensure that you communicate?
You will not expect
members of the public.
You will not expect them to understand what is happening. All of them to understand what is happening. I mean, people are busy with what they return home with.
But this has to do with
so that is why they appointed their MPs to look into that on their behalf, and that is why they have us working in government to serve the people of the country, and that's why they have you as journalists to explain to them. But they don't have time to come to Parliament or to hold their head on television, be monitoring what is happening in Parliament, listening to all those jargons spoken in Parliament. They don't understand. They have to go in search of their economic welfare, and this is all part of what we call the administrative democracy. It's for few, it's for the elites, those who are special, those who are employed to serve in a capacity that the ordinary man will not serve. So it's our responsibility now to make them understand, to go to them, to explain to them what has happened in Parliament. But you don't expect them to say, we understand. No. I mean, we just listen to Money Coffee, we are from Waterloo. There's always a money government not going to market. That's their interest. That is their interest. You don't expect them to come to Parliament or to follow what is happening in Parliament when the man for going to market, for go sell videos. That is not his business. His business is to look after his home. So our business is to serve governance. The business of Parliament is to serve Parliament and the people that they represent. So the MPs have done their job. They should now go back to their communities to explain. Your own job now is to explain all of these things to the public.
So how do you come in as the Ministry of Information?
So how do we come in now? It's also to go beyond this platform, to reach out, to organize community meetings, to meet them in their communities and explain to them what has happened in Parliament. So that's our own job, that's our own business, and that is what we will do and we continue to do. To go beyond this platform, because this platform cannot capture every single man, for example, in Waterloo. Those in Dovecot who may have come from Waterloo, do they need to sit by their radio listening to Morning Coffee or television where they have to sell their fish and the like? But there is an activity that you can hold that will serve them, like you organize road shows. You can go to them, you mount loudspeakers, you can use stand-up comedians to go discuss the political issues that have happened. So there are ways you can target them. You can go to their communities on Saturdays and Sundays, you find them there. And then you speak to them in community meetings, in town halls.
So, Chief, there is a particular section that was expunged by either side of the aisle when it talks about an independent presidential candidate. So I'm asking you this as a Sierra Leonean, do you think it was necessary for because the AG they drafted this particular amendment, this bill based on consultations with the public. So they put forward this thing that, okay, the public is requesting that we have presidential candidate, independent presidential candidate, and then now the political class keeps against it. So as a Sierra Leonean, do you think it was necessary, or do you think as at this time we needed an independent presidential candidate, or it was necessary for these people to kick it out just like that?
Well, the AG sets parameters for the election of an independent candidate. You cannot just wake up one morning and say, I want to be an independent candidate. There are parameters you must meet before you may be considered contesting as an independent presidential candidate. So what the AG has done is to reflect all of these voices into this document. There are some set of people who said that yes, there should be a provision for an independent presidential candidate, and the AG did not want to deny them that opportunity of reflecting that view in the document, so he placed it there, and Parliament has said no, we don't need this. And that's the beauty of democracy, allowing parliamentary processes to work, allowing the system to take the decisions that is fit for Sierra Leone. They have said, being the people's voice, we don't need this, and that is final.
So as a Sierra Leonean, being that we are saying that the Sierra Leone democracy is coming up to a mature stage, do you think it was necessary for us to have a issue that will speak directly to us having independent presidential candidates?
Well, I go by what Parliament has said. I don't want to express my opinion. I just want to go by what an institution has said, because they are the professionals, they are the experts, they have been in politics representing us as citizens, so they may have good reasons for saying no, we don't need an independent candidate. I think we go by that. And again, on the part of the AG, he was doing the job of the ordinary Sierra Leonean, reflecting all shades of opinion in that document.
Okay, so thank you very much. He has made a day today to Alimami Lahai Kama, the Chief Director in the Ministry of Information and Civic Education. Well, viewers, we flip the camera to another segment in this Good Morning Sierra Leone program, which is the review of the headlines of our local tabloids. I start the ball rolling with A to Z newspaper that says, more than a sponsor, LRMG receives Institutional Excellence Award. Parliament passes bipartisan constitutional amendment bill. China's Sierra Leone Nursing Training Center conducts 6 specialized nursing training. This stories plus more you find in the A to Z newspaper. Grammar newspaper banner headline states, Parliament passes historic constitutional amendments. Direct think tank condemns APC walkout. Voting threshold dispute still gets APC walkout. Historic vote reshapes electoral frameworks. These stories and many more you can find on the Grammar newspaper. Well, the next one I have there is the exclusive newspaper that opens with a banner headline that says, Parliament on fire, APC MPs walkouts. APC flag bearer opinion poll, their elites. These stories plus more you find in the exclusive newspaper. Concord Times newspaper banner headline states, Parliament passes constitutional amendment amid opposition walkout. Government rules Leone owns over 112 water and sanitation facilities in Mayamba and Kenema. Chief Minister highlights strategic leadership and national service. Dr. Ibrahim Bangura, a man with a tapestry of love, patience and devotion. These stories and more you can find on the Concord Times newspaper. Well, the next one I have here is the Awoko newspaper that says, press release controversial constitutional amendment bill overwhelmingly passed. Direct think tank condemns APC walkout as a betrayal of its parliamentary mandate. Speaker Thomas rules simple majority applies to 2025 constitutional amendment bill. Refers question to Supreme Court. Please remember and honor fallen officers of August 10th riot in emotional memorial ceremony. Ruling SLPP passes constitutional amendment bill with 97 votes after APC boycott over voting threshold. These stories plus more you find in your own newspaper. My final pick is the Standard Times newspaper and its banner headline states, Parliament passes Constitutional Amendment Bill 2025.
Sayama Chieftain Tibato Adam Abaya enters the game. Palestinian contractor jumps bail. The stories and many more you can find on the Standard Times newspaper. But viewers, we must hasten to note that these headlines read out does not reflect the views of the SLBC, but we are merely reviewing them.
Well, we still have with us the Chief Director of the Ministry of Information and Civic Education, Alimami Leone Kama. Now we are about to begin the continuance of this edition of Good Morning Sir program. Mr. Kama, what will be your parting shots to viewers out there?
We want to thank the people of Sierra Leone, to our MPs for the demonstration of maturity in Parliament, the exhibition of maturity in Parliament, the democracy displayed in Parliament, which was so peaceful. We felt good about that, and we felt that we have progressed, made huge progress in our parliamentary discussions, in our parliamentary processes. I mean, the walkouts, everything was peaceful. I mean, it indicates that Sierra Leone is a democratic country, and this is a kind of democracy we should market to our contemporaries across the region. And I must also thank the media, because you see a galaxy of journalists in the world just to transmit what was happening in Parliament. A good number of us were seated in our offices, in our homes, watching televisions and following the whole event in Parliament on our phones, and that was to the good job of your good self and your colleagues who were there in full force to exhibit what was happening. And we at the ministry will continue to do our job. I mean, it will be huge. I mean, to talk about the bill, the content of that bill, to teach the public about what all of those elements mean to them and to us as a Sierra Leone. So we are happy for this bipartisan nature and the bipartisan bill that has been passed.
So thank you very much. Is Alimami Leone Kama from the Chief Director of the Ministry of Civic Education, who has been talking about this particular constitutional amendment bill. Well, Esther.
On that note, that's our job. The content of Good Morning Sierra Leone that came to you from the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. Many thanks to our producer, Daphne Tiger, and also to the entire production crew. Good Morning Sierra Leone returns tomorrow. But before we go, I'll take a quick recap of our quote of the day. And it's from former American President Abraham Lincoln, and it says, "You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today." I have been Esther Sako,
and I have been Emmanuel Samuel. Stay glued to the service. Goodbye.
As a mother of the house, whenever I want to prepare palm soup, there's no need pounding palm fruit. All I need is Nkulenu's Ghana's original palm soup base. My soup is done, and its preparation, it is not difficult at all. Nkulenu palm soup base, it's easily done with no difficulties. Just take few ladles and your soup is done. And its flavor, it's amazing. This is Nkulenu's Ghana's original palm soup base. And this is Nkulenu's Ghana's original spiced palm soup base. Iron fruit and turkey berries are naturally added.
Also available Brown Gold Natural Cocoa Powder, Sunny Gold Brown Sugar, Neat Fufu Flour, Shito, Pisa, and Moringa. All available at Nyami Ado Enterprise, 1 Lower Waterloo Street, Freetown.
Nkulenu palm soup base.
Ghanaian original taste.